Welcome to Your Pathway to the Emirates, our new podcast channel. Here we will explore exciting real estate opportunities across Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and other Emirates in the UAE. Beyond property, we'll also delve into important topics to support anyone considering a move to the UAE, covering schools, tax, visas, company setup, relocation, and lifestyle. Our goal is to provide a comprehensive, one-stop guide that helps you navigate every step of relocation or investment in this dynamic region. Stay tuned for insights that will empower your journey. So let's get started. So welcome to our podcast, and today we have Lisa.
Thanks, Topesh.
Good to have you back again. And today I thought we'd talk about the cost of living, because obviously when you're moving to a different country, it's good to know the costs of, the everyday costs from the point of view of someone who's actually been there for a long time.
Yeah.
What's sort of general costs of living there? What do you pay for monthly? And we can sort of try and fit that into maybe what we pay for here in the UK and do some sort of comparison.
Okay, sounds good. So should we use me as an individual? I'll tell you exactly what I pay every month, and what those numbers look like. Obviously, I'm a pet parent, so I need to take that into account. But just as a single person living in an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment in the UAE, my rent each month, and this is obviously rent. It would be your water and electricity. It would be, if there's a separate air conditioning provider or chiller provider, you would need to take that into account. Gas connection, television and internet, travel, groceries, and then obviously extras. If you go to brunches and dinners and do that quite often, that can also lead to a big spend in a month. So I live in a one-bedroom apartment. I'm paying 63,000 dirhams a year for rent. So at the moment, I'm looking at 5,250 dirhams a month, purely on rent. Okay. My water and electricity during the winter months is generally between 500 to 600 dirhams a month, and that's usually from November through to February or March. Post-March, it slowly starts building up, and at the moment, I'm paying about 1,200 dirhams a month, which sounds excessive. And for me, it is excessive because it's almost double what I pay in the winter months. But that includes water, electricity, and air conditioning. Okay?
Well, let's step back again. So you're saying the rent was 5,000...
250 dirhams.
So that's around £1,000 a month in terms of GBP.
Yes.
Okay. And
Okay.
what was the other figure you had?
Water, electricity, and air conditioning.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that is in the summer months it goes up to 1,200 dirhams, give or take. In the winter months, it's between 500 and 600 dirhams a month.
So it's between 120 to 240 pounds a month.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
right,
fair.
yeah.
I mean, I think we pay a lot more here anyway.
Do you?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we got the highest energy costs.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So that's what I'm covering just on water, lights, and keeping the house alive. In terms of, obviously, I've got a gas cooker, and I look to pay. It just depends. Some months I pay 80 dirhams for the month. Sometimes
Wow.
it's 120 dirhams for the month. For gas, gas is really cheap. It's one of the cheapest things you'll have to cover in a month.
Yeah, that's
is
very
gas.
cheap. It's between 80 and 120 pounds. So I'm
Wow.
sorry,
Okay.
sorry. It's between 15 and 25 pounds. That's
Okay.
all it is. Okay.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Television and internet, it depends on what kind of package you take. So there's different providers in the UAE. They generally offer similar packages. So there's two main providers. One is called Do and one is called Etisalat. With Do as a service provider. And sometimes it depends on the neighborhood you live in, which provider you could use for that particular apartment building. A lot of them provide either service or either provider, but some apartment buildings would only have Do as a service provider and some would only have Etisalat. But like I said, their packages are generally very similar. And the package I'm on is pretty basic. It gives me basic television channels. So a lot of Arabic channels, the news channels, one or two English channels, but obviously internet and, for the whole month, I pay 408 dirhams a month for that.
Okay, that's about £80. So,
Yeah.
and what speed of the internet do you get there then?
Oh, now you're asking a question.
You
I
have to do
don't want
speed
to
test on the
lie.
go.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. I don't have any complaints. It's not like delayed or slow, or it never breaks. So it's pretty good. Pretty decent speed. So let's just say average speed, mid-range speed. Not the highest, not the lowest.
So the people moving there, do they miss the TV? Because obviously I've noticed that as well. I don't think you watch much TV when you're there.
Well, I do.
Yeah. Okay. So what programs do you watch, or is there anything you miss? Because we have Sky here in the UK, and we have the UK channels. So we have a lot of programs on TV. I'm just wondering, is there anything you miss from the TV side of things, or not really?
Not really, because there are these providers that come and install a TV box that runs off the internet, and you can watch multiple channels. So the one I've got, it has a lot of the UK channels, but I predominantly just watch the service they've got that has movies and series. So there's different, obviously, channels on this box. So you can watch television live, or you can watch the series that they have loaded, and the movies that they have loaded. So there are these providers out there that provide these boxes, and I think I paid 1,500, and that's the one-off connection fee, and then I think it's renewable every year. I recently got somebody different to provide a box, but there are different versions of this box that you could
But can you get
find out about.
Netflix and Amazon and all that there? Or is there restrictions?
Yes. No. So some of those options are there. So the latest Netflix will be showing on that in a day or two after it shows on Netflix. But you can also, if you've got a smart TV, you can, through your internet, you can have your Netflix account on your television. So those options are all there still. And if you've got an Amazon Fire Stick, you've obviously got Prime and all those things already loaded onto the Fire Stick. Yeah. So you can connect with the internet through that, through the internet, which saves you money as well. I mean, obviously Netflix is 56 dirhams a month. If you're part of Amazon Prime, you pay your monthly subscription, which goes off monthly, obviously. So there's all those aspects. So not really a shortage of good television. I'm up to date on everything that's out. So, I spent the weekend watching Perfect Match, from Netflix, and I've watched the whole season already. So that, you don't really miss out on TV if you're a homebody. If you like to go out, then you don't really need these services. But yeah, so that's what I pay for having the internet connection, the basic TV channel. So the 408. Then obviously telephone is another expense. So I've got a postpaid account with Do as well. And once again, there's Do, Etisalat. I know Virgin also have accounts in the UAE for mobile.
I found this quite unique in a way that, when you come out the airport, you get the Virgin SIM cards.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise until years later that that's the most expensive. And as soon as you come out, you go to Do, and it's so much cheaper.
Yeah. Although funny you say that. I was talking to a colleague the other day, and they were on Virgin, and they said the package deals were much cheaper with Virgin for the past year that they've been on. It's cheaper than
you have to just shop around, I guess.
Yeah, you kind of have to. So the package I'm on is I get, I think, 250 free minutes and 250 minutes of data, and I'm paying about 300 dirhams a month for my mobile. So that means when I'm out and about, I don't have to be connected to internet, or like Wi-Fi. I can use my mobile 24/7 wherever I am, and I can make international calls with those free minutes as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so a certain amount of free minutes a month for international calls or local calls. Obviously, if you go beyond that, you have to pay. They obviously charge you for the additional minutes or whatever the case is.
Yeah, so it's slightly more expensive than here because that's about £60. So I think Europe and the UK has a cheaper telephone network. Yeah, but that's because there's so much competition, I think, and there's more people. So it's the economies of scale there. They can afford to do that.
And you know what? With these TV and internet packages, you do get a landline number, but nobody has a landline these days. So it's kind of obsolete and a bit of a useless offering from these providers, unless you are going to have a home phone. But I don't know anybody in the world or anybody in the UAE that has a home phone. Offices, yes, we have office phones, and connections like that, but everybody uses.
But even those office phones are IP phones now; they're movable, so everything's changing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that moves us on to, so we've got those costs. We've got the electricity.
Yeah.
We've got the rental. we've got the internet costs. There's no council tax or of similar nature, like a government tax you have to pay, or
there is, but so for example, it's called housing fee, and this is actually part of your water and electricity bill. So it's called DEWA, the water and electricity bill. Okay, that's a provider that provides water in Dubai. In Abu Dhabi, it's ADDC. Okay, but on DEWA, on your DEWA bill every month or your ADDC bill, whatever your rental is, you pay 5% of that divided over 12 months. So you'll see so the more expensive your rent gets, the more expensive your housing fee gets. But it's all included in the DEWA bill. So even though your consumption looks low, you look at your housing fee and it brings your bill right up, which is a bit frustrating.
So that's payable by the tenant then, the DEWA bill,
yes,
not paid by the landlord?
No, tenant.
Okay, the other thing I found is, when you're renting,
yeah.
you pay the agency fee as well, don't you? As
that's
a tenant, not the landlord.
Yes.
So it's around the other way sometimes.
Yeah. In South Africa, I think it's also different. It's the other way around, where the landlord would cover that, But here, everything's in the tenant. The broker's fee. It's just a lot. That's why it's a lot of upfront expenses when you first get here.
Yeah. And also, I understand that there's a certain element of the rent that if there's a minor issue, you have to pay for the minor issue, and the landlord pays for the
maintenance. Yeah, that's right. Yes. So usually for an apartment, up to 500 dirhams for every instance. So you can't save up all your, your maintenance issues and have the landlord send somebody out to fix it all, and it costs over 500 dirhams, and then he has to pay for it. It's per instance. So if my AC breaks, for example, and the maintenance company that comes out is charging me 450 dirhams, that's on me. If it's 501 dirhams, it's on the landlord. So that's per instance. If it's a villa community, you're usually looking at 1,000 dirhams on the tenant and anything over 1,000 on the landlord. Okay.
Right, that's really interesting, because obviously that means that it's a minor issue like a dripping tap. Then, or you might have made a mistake and called somebody out for something that's not an issue.
Yes.
Then you end up paying.
100%.
System actually is very fair. And about the rental payments, you pay in advance because they're changing that system, aren't they? You used to pay in checks before, or how does that work?
Yeah, you still pay in checks. So most landlords prefer one rental check. There are some communities, like for example, I pay in 12 checks, but this is because I had an agreement with my landlord during COVID, and we've just continued with the 12 checks. So I have to write out 12 physical checks every renewal of my contract, but they don't cash those checks. I just do a bank transfer, and they void the check basically. But you still have to hand them over as guarantee for the landlord that he's got his rent for the year. So at the moment we've got a client that's looking to rent a property that's 1.6 million a year for rent. Crazy, hey? And they're pushing for a 2 check payment. So we had one landlord agree to that, but you still have to give over both checks up front. So when you sign the contract, you give over both rental checks. So that's, 800,000.
Which means you have to have the money in the bank, correct?
That's right.
To have that to cover that.
Yeah. So if you're paying in 2 or 3 or 4 checks potentially, you have to think ahead and plan ahead that you've got the funds when your check goes off, because there is a penalty that you'll pay if the check bounces. There's a penalty, and they can also, report to you. But most people are okay, just pay it in a few days, and they charge you the penalty as long as you've covered the rent. So yeah, there's a lot of ins and outs to renting in the UAE. But like I said, like my landlord's happy with 12 checks, but there's no other landlords that I've come across that, will accept 12 checks as if you're the first tenant.
I understand that's changing anyway. So
I'm sure it's things are evolving. But it's the same in Saudi as well. It's also upfront. Everything's upfront in the UAE.
But the one question is, if you're paying 12 checks, you have to make sure there's money in the bank to cover the first check, or all 12?
No, for the first check. So each month, what they do is, once I get my salary, I transfer the 5250. I send a screenshot of the payment, and they void my check.
No, that's great, because that means obviously if you're paying one check, then you have to make sure that's enough in the bank.
100%.
If you're paying by 12, then it's much better for everyone.
3 or 4, you just got to remember when your check is going to go off, so that you've got money in the bank for it to clear. Yeah. But the thing is with checks as well, this is your check might be rejected by the bank because of a signature. They're very, very fussy on signatures here on checks. So even though it's my signature, if it doesn't match the signature in their system to the point, they will reject your check, and then the management company, whoever's managing the landlord's property, or the landlord would reach out and go, the bank rejected your check. And it's like, sometimes it's not because there's no funds, it's because of your signature, or you've double crossed a T, when you've written the check out. And they're very strict on checks here. So
I would be in trouble. I'm left-handed and my signature's always
oh,
changed.
messy.
So I'm going to be very, I'll have to get like some sort of electronic signature done in some way. But so that's great. I think we'll go deeper into this, the rental side as well. At one point, in fact, maybe we'll bring in a guest that does the rentals there, and we can talk to them. 100%. So we've covered the cost of living in terms of the property side. We've still got obviously groceries, going out, and fuel costs.
Yeah. So we'll just base it on me because I'm a single. So I spend about 400 dirhams a month on petrol. I have a small Mazda CX-3, new car, and that's what I spend a month on petrol, and that's getting me from work, home to work and back again every day, and that's a 35-minute drive both ways, so that's 70 minutes a day of driving. So petrol's really, that's also quite a reasonable expense here. It's not South Africa's crazy with petrol prices, but here petrol is reasonably well priced. So I fill up about once a week basically. So tank, and that's going to events during the week as well, because I go to a lot of events in the mornings prior to coming to the office. So that would be getting me to the event and then getting me to the office. Also, like we spoke about previously, was a SALIC, which is the toll system down Sheikh Zayed Road. So if you are going to use that system, you need to make sure that you've covered your expenses for that. And that's, I put on about 50 to 100 dirhams a month on that, just to cover my travel on Sheikh Zayed Road.
Well, that's not too bad then. That's not too bad. It's only £20. Okay.
But it's about, I think it's, I'll speak under correction, but I think it's about 6 dirhams every time you pass through the toll gate. So if you are using this road to travel to and from work, you are looking at a much higher expense per month. Okay. Because if I was using Sheikh Zayed Road and going, twice a day, and I might hit 2 or 3 toll gates down the road, it's becoming quite an expensive month for me for SALIC, in terms of SALIC. So there are alternate routes, but they are looking at also putting SALIC toll gates on those roads. So I think we're going to be in a situation at some point in the future where there's no way around it. You're going to have to cover it.
Well, hopefully the app that people use there is Waze rather than Google, because it tells you where the exits are properly. So hopefully Waze might find a way to help you, guide you through that.
Yeah. So that's petrol. I would think if people are going out a lot more, you're looking at, maybe 600, 800 dirhams a month, depending on how much you drive in a day. If you're a salesman and you're always out and about, you have a different story. Hopefully you've got a company car that covers that expense. But as a single individual with and that's not a 60 kilometer an hour commute. That's a 120 kilometer an hour drive, right? So it's not like I'm, driving slowly, so saving on petrol. It's fast driving, So. What else is there food? Groceries. Obviously, it depends where you like to shop. I kind of like Spinneys and Waitrose, which is the more, I'd say, upmarket, expensive shops in the UAE. Like I've mentioned previously, they've got really nice meat and really nice fruit and veg, products from other countries. But I use InstaShop, so there's always a fee on top of that as well. So I look at probably, I'd say probably between 1,500 to 2,500 a month on groceries. And I'm a single, obviously I've got my pets as well, but that's probably what I spend on groceries.
That's not too bad. That's £3,500. Does that, how many times do you eat at home then? How many times do you go out based on that figure?
I eat at home all the time, and I buy things that I like. So, but things, I kind of eat the same thing most nights, try and change it up once or twice in a week, otherwise it gets boring. But, I buy things that I can cook over the weekend and then just, eat leftovers, for a few nights of the week, and then throw something else in and then have a leftover again, So even though but I do shop at the more expensive shops, which is silly on my part because I can get the same products at a more affordable shop. However, I can't get pork products, and I don't have to Spinneys and then Carrefour and have to shop at multiple places. So I'm like, I can't be bothered to now go onto another app to order from Carrefour, like toilet paper and things. So I just generally order from the same shop, which cost me a bit more. So you could, as a single, probably spend between 1,000 to 2,000 dirhams a month, or 1,000 to 1,500, depending on what you like to eat. Like I said, if you are looking to go out, that's when things get expensive. Like I know a lot of people in my office, they order lunch in every day, and an average order in costs you anything from 35 dirhams to 65 dirhams, for a salad, or, if you want a Burger King, that's more affordable. But if you're looking at a really nice salad or a really nice sandwich from a deli, then you're looking at 59 dirhams sometimes for a sandwich.
That's still quite, I mean, you may think it's expensive, but even 65 dirhams only about £13.
Okay.
So that's
it doesn't sound a lot when you say that, but when I think, well, I could buy like, a loaf of bread, for example, costs 8 dirhams, 12 dirhams.
Yeah.
I could buy like, 4 loaves of bread for the cost of that sandwich, which would last me the whole month.
True.
Like, if you look at it like that,
So in terms of what your monthly expenditure is, if you put it all together, and it's all credit card there anyway, isn't it? It's not.
I use credit cards. So obviously once I get paid, I transfer my, I pay my credit card off, or pay most of it off, and then I pay my DWA from my credit card. Obviously, then I get air miles. So paying with my credit card gives me other points where I can use for other things. So I also transfer money to South Africa just to add in another thought process here, because I think a lot of people might maybe support family, or want to send money back to their home countries. I just do it through the bank, and I don't seem to get charged. At one point, I know it was 150 dirhams to send like 1,500 dirhams to South Africa, but at the moment it's just a straight transfer, which is great. I used to use a money transferring agency like Western Union.
We use that for our clients. We have a few FX companies we recommend.
Yes. Yeah, there we go.
Obviously, that's because they're buying property, or they're putting the rent up in a whole year in advance. Then it's best to use the FX.
But I think even if you're doing a monthly payment home for whatever reason, there are companies that can offer you a better rate than the bank, obviously, or the Western Union, for example, because Western Union and American Express, as I used to use, they're
quite expensive. We use private companies that do FX. So they offer better rates than the bank, zero transaction fee.
Yes.
So I think if anyone's interested in that, just drop us a line, and we'll happily put you in touch with the right company. And obviously, there is a big saving you can make, especially when you're paying deposits for property, or you're paying the various figures for that, or if you're buying it outright. Definitely worth looking into that as a possible option.
100%. And you've got people that so that's great. You can introduce away. So back to your question about what I spend monthly, I would say probably about 10 to 15,000 on average. Obviously, my dog has daycare, which is another expense for me. So if you do have pets, that might be something you want to consider. I pay for the pickup and drop-off service because it's more convenient. So I pay about 2,500 every 3 months, and he goes once a week to daycare. If you want your pet to go twice a week, you're looking at 2,500 every 6 weeks, which I was finding too extreme. So I was like, right, you don't really love going, you go once a week. And he's quite happy to sleep at home for the rest of the week.
Okay.
And spend weekends with me. So he's home 4 days of the week. He's at school for a day out. And then weekends he's with me, and we, go to the beach, or there's the dog park called Bark Park, which I haven't visited yet, but it's apparently amazing. So obviously there'd be an entrance fee for that, but these are all additional expenses that you don't have to have if you don't have pets. The same as going out. If you're not a big bruncher, if you're not a big person that goes to eat out, you can really, you wouldn't be spending that much.
Sure.
Besides on if you get takeaway lunch.
It's as reasonable as you want it to be, basically.
Correct.
So, quick question about the dog park before we end today's session.
Yeah.
Do you have to pick up after your pets like you do here, or is it a different rule there?
No, so look, in the dog park, there are people walking around. So if I take Bodhi, that's his name, if I take Bodhi to my second home, that's a dog park that I love. If I take him there for a play, like over the weekend, and he does a poop, there's obviously poop bags, and I would go and pick it up. But there are people around as well that if they see it before I see it, they'd go and grab it.
Okay.
In the parks here, in the proper, like in the community I live in, yes, you need to have your bags with you when you go for a walk. Okay, because
yeah, sure.
you need to pick it up. They've got dustbins throughout the park, and they've even got bags throughout the park where you can grab a bag and pick up your dog's mess. You don't have to leave it. You don't even have to buy your own bags where I live, basically.
Okay.
So, but it is quite polite to pick up after your dog. So it is kind of a rule in communities.
I'm sure it'll be a robot soon, so not to worry.
Yeah, I'd love that.
So great, that's been great. I mean, it's covered everything that we need to know. So thank you again for your insights.
You're welcome.
And look forward to the next time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Your Pathway to the Emirates podcast. We believe that by staying connected with our podcast and social media channels, you will gain valuable knowledge and stay abreast of the latest developments that may be of interest to you, whether you are an investor, enthusiast, or professional in the industry. Do drop us an email on info@elevation88.com if you wish us to cover any particular topics. So please follow, subscribe, and stay tuned for our upcoming episodes and updates as we continue to bring you engaging and informative content.